Welcome to Voxiversity Live. I'm Vox Day, and this is a special extemporaneous version of Voxiversity. We're here at the Voxiversity Foundation in Barcelona. Today, I'm going to talk about rhetoric versus dialectic. Now, this might sound a little bit academic, and it might sound a little bit abstract and uninteresting, but the fact is that you are dealing with rhetoric and dialectic every single day. Rhetoric is in our ads, in our entertainment, news, and most of all, rhetoric is in our politics.
Welcome to Radical Cram School. We're going to learn about social justice, revolution, and how to be powerful in the bodies that you have.
Rhetoric is known as the art of communication. In the sense that we're using it, the Aristotelian sense, it refers to the art of manipulating other people through emotions.
Hello, my young comrades.
Hi!
Most of us think that we change our minds on the basis of information.
I'm going to show a picture. This is my way of figuring out if you've been tainted by the patriarchy.
We like to think that we're educated. We like to think that we're thoughtful.
What? Oh, I agree with that.
We like to think that our positions are achieved by virtue of the logic that we apply to them.
Who do you think it is?
This looks creepy.
It looks creepy.
But the reality is, most of us change our minds on the basis of how we feel.
Why?
There's just like this thing about white people that just makes me be like...
In his seminal work, Rhetoric, Aristotle distinguished between people who are capable of learning from information and people who are not. Those who are capable of learning through information and changing their minds on the basis of information are using what he called dialectic. Those who change their minds on the basis of how they feel, we call them rhetorical thinkers, and they are limited to the rhetoric. Because when you're trying to convince someone of something, you have one of two ways to do it. You can either appeal to their reason, or you can appeal to their emotions. The problem, of course, is if you're trying to convince a rhetoric speaker by providing them with information, you're doing the equivalent of speaking Chinese to an English speaker.
I'm pretty sure what's killing the crops is this Brondo stuff.
They're not going to understand you.
The Brondo's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes.
They're not going to believe you.
So wait a minute. What you're saying is that you want us to put water on the crops.
Yes.
Water. Like out the toilet?
And most importantly, they're not going to change their mind.
After several hours, Joe finally gave up on logic and reason and simply told the cabinet that he could talk to plants and that they wanted water.
You must speak the correct language to the correct audience. If you're speaking dialectic, you should only do so to a dialectic speaker. If you're speaking rhetoric, you should only do so to a rhetoric speaker. So what do I mean by this? What is speaking dialectic versus speaking rhetoric? When I'm speaking dialectic, I'm using facts. I'm using logic. I'm attempting to convey truth, and I'm attempting to do so through the use of valid logical syllogisms. So for example, if I want to convince you that the United States has a larger economy than China, I can do so by appealing to gross domestic product, the size of the population, the per capita spending. These are all facts, and I can build my logical case on those facts. If you're able to accept that information and change your mind on the basis of the information provided, then we've engaged in a dialectical exchange. Now, just to be clear, this is Aristotelian dialectic. It's not the same as the Hegelian dialectic or the Marxian dialectic that uses the same term. This is a little confusing, but again, Aristotle's dialectic dates back to 2400 BC, so it has priority. We can use it. Rhetoric, on the other hand, contains no information content. What you are attempting to do when you utilize rhetoric is appeal to the emotions of the receiver. So the statements that you're making don't necessarily contain any valid information at all. These statements can be logical, but they're usually not. They can be designed to appeal to the positive emotions of the receiver, or they can be designed to target the negative emotions of the receiver. When you're using rhetoric in the negative sense, you're usually going to try to dissuade the receiver from doing something that you don't want him to do by using negative emotions. So for example, if you want someone to vote for Hillary Clinton, then you might say, people who vote for Donald Trump are stupid.
Fill in the blank for me. Two men getting married is blank.
Disgusting.
Actually, the answer is legal in the United States.
Who you voted for doesn't really say much about your intelligence, but we can use your vanity and your belief in your own intelligence or your fear of being thought less than intelligent to try to sway your vote.
She could start a war in 10 seconds. If she has hot flashes, whatever, boom.
Haven't all wars been started by men?
So whether you're using it in the positive sense, hey, smart people vote for Hillary Clinton, or whether you're using it in the negative sense, stupid people or crazy people or evil people vote for Donald Trump. In either case, you're using rhetoric to attempt to appeal to the voters' emotion.
Are you more hawkish than Hillary or less hawkish?
I'm probably more intelligent than Hillary.
Oh, come on, answer the question. Are you more hawkish?
And you see it used all the time in advertisements. For example, when an advertiser shows you an attractive woman, then shows you the car that they're selling, they're trying to appeal to your emotions and get you to connect the idea that if you buy that car, then a woman of that sort will be interested in you. That is a rhetorical case.
Mercury brakes have larger brake lining area.
An ad that is focused on dialectics might talk to you about how the car that they are selling you gets better gas mileage than another car, or that it has a better price than another car. The more that you're dealing in facts and logic, you're operating in the realm of dialectics. If you're focused on how the idea affects you, that's when you're dealing in the realm of rhetoric. Some examples of rhetoric can be seen in the campaign of the God Emperor Donald Trump.
Lion Ted, Lion Ted. What's your name? My name's Lion Ted Cruz. How would you spell that? L-Y-E-N. Lion. Crooked Hillary, folks. She's been crooked from the beginning. Crooked Hillary Clinton.
I really could care less.
What he's doing is he is affecting your emotions. He is affecting the way that you think about that individual. It doesn't even matter whether you believe that she's a criminal or not. The point is that he has created an emotional reaction in you to the concept that Hillary Clinton just might be crooked. You've had an emotional reaction. That is a rhetorical exchange. One of the most effective uses of rhetoric by the God Emperor was when he took the term fake news, which had been created by the mainstream media, and he turned it against them in one of the most adroit uses of rhetorical jujitsu that we've ever seen.
No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question. You are fake news. Go ahead.
When he says fake news, that doesn't mean that everything the news reports is fake, but it calls into question anything that the mainstream media is saying.
And the fake news refuse to call it, right?
Any assertion that they're producing,
Fake news.
any statement they're making,
Fake.
any exclusive that they're breaking,
Phony. Fake.
is suddenly called into question in your mind because of the emotional connection that the president has established between the idea of news and the idea of the news being fake. Every time there's a revelation of a story that proves to be false, every time there's an article that has to be retracted, every time a news anchor is busted for lying, that reinforces the rhetoric that Trump is utilizing when he uses the term fake news.
I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are.
So why is there an emotional response to the term fake news, especially on the part of the journalists and the news media themselves? Well, it's because they pride themselves on being reliable. They pride themselves on their accuracy. They pride themselves on being a source that you can trust. Most of all, they pride themselves on being reliable sources. Sources that are better and more trustworthy than other random internet sites or other random news sources. It strikes them directly at the core of their identity. The closer that rhetoric approximates the truth, the more effective it is. If the mainstream media were actually reliable, then Trump's rhetoric of fake news would not be effective. What makes it a rhetorical kill shot is the fact that the media is, in a word, very often fake. The angrier the response to the rhetorical term, the more likely it is that it's rooted in truth.
Fake news is the worst thing that you can call a journalist.
Another effective term that people, especially dialectic speakers, have trouble understanding and accepting is the term SJW. SJW, of course, stands for social justice warriors. And the average dialectic speaker doesn't like that. He always wants to come up with a term like social justice crybabies, or social justice jihadis, or social justice terrorists. And the reason is that the dialectic speaker is too focused on the information content. The dialectic speaker is always trying to come up with a term that makes sense to him. But this fundamentally misses the point of rhetoric, because rhetoric is not about the speaker's emotions and the speaker's feelings. It's about the feelings and emotions of the target. SJWs get upset when they're called SJWs. But why? There's nothing bad about being called a warrior, right? That might be true if you're not a pencil-neck, spindly-armed soy boy who quite clearly couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag. The sarcasm, the dismissal of the possibility that the SJW could be a real warrior is part of its rhetorical effectiveness on the targets. Now, even when people are consciously attempting to rhetoric, that doesn't mean they do it well. Probably the main example of a rhetoric fail is the ever-present Dems are the real racists.
Who are the real racists?
Liberals are the real racists of this country.
The Democrat Party has always been the party of racism.
The party of slavery, the party of Jim Crow, the party of KKK.
Racists in the South, Democrats were happy to have their votes.
They're the most racist people there are.
It's pretty plain, the Democrats were the racists.
This is very popular among conservative Republicans who love to point out that it was Republicans who fought the Civil War, it was Republicans who ended slavery, it was Republicans who passed the Civil Rights Movement. Therefore, what blacks need to understand is that it's not Republicans who are the real racists, it's Democrats. Why does this fail? Because how often do Democrats worry about themselves being racists? They don't. Dems are the real racists? Well, who are the fake racists? Who is being called racist in the first place? There's no emotion involved, and there's a layer of intellectual abstraction involved that means that the rhetorical effect is completely lost. Another good example of a rhetorical fail is calling Donald Trump Drumpf.
So please, don't think of him as Donald Trump. Think of him as something else.
Now, what emotional response is that supposed to trigger? I don't even know what Drumpf means.
Because it turns out the name Trump was not always his family's name. One biographer found that a prescient ancestor had changed it from, and this is true, Drumpf. Yes, King Drumpf.
Now, apparently, the idea is that his family's original name was Drumpf, not Trump. So that means that his ancestors were immigrants. So therefore, Donald Trump's policy on immigration is wrong and inconsistent and hypocritical. How does this make me feel bad? I'm still not entirely sure what they're talking about in the first place. Again, the fact that there is a level or two or three of intellectual abstraction required just to explain what the rhetorical attack means, it's an obvious indicator that it's not going to trigger any emotional response in the target. But the thing is, just like learning a language, you can learn how to improve your rhetoric and how to improve your dialectic. If you're going to improve your dialectic, work on constructing proper logical syllogisms, assemble your facts, do your research, do your homework, and focus on speaking the truth. If you want to improve your rhetoric, well, that's a lot more fun. All you need to do is learn where their buttons are and how to push them. And at first you don't succeed, that's okay. Not everyone can be Milo Yiannopoulos and cause an entire room full of feminists to fall silent in gasping horror with the drop of a single word. Not everyone can destroy the internet with one perfect tweet. I'm Vox Day, and this is Voxiversity Live.